Hello, Radiant One, and a very big and a very warm welcome to Mastery, the show and podcast for brilliant spiritual beings just like you, having a human experience ready to ignite the mastery inherent in you, as well as grow and expand from within and wanting to lead with love in work, business, and life. Designed to activate the mastery already within you, here we merge the worlds of seen and unseen, magic and miracles with the mundane and the practical, spirituality with strategy, the energetic with the physical, and business, work, and life with a whole lot of love and soul. I'm your host, spiritual business coach, business developer, and radical love rebel Maria Serafina. And it is my deep honor, my great pleasure, and joy to share this episode with you. I serve business owners and leaders wanting to learn and be supported as you navigate leading with heart and soul. I do that through the Spiritual Leadership Academy, the Spiritual MBA, and one-on-one spiritual business coaching full of intuition and energetic alignment. You can find out more about everything on my website, mariaserafina.com. Having been called to this show and podcast, it is my strong guess that mastery is already inherent within you, Radiant One. If you'd like to expand and amplify that mastery, download the Mastery Activation I've created for you. Originally released within my paid membership, The Elevation, I've now made it available to all. Go to mariaserafina.com/MA or click the link in the description to receive it. Remember, if you enjoy Mastery, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, or leave a review to amplify the energy and love being shared in these transmissions so they can reach more and more gorgeous radiant beings like you. Today I'm joined by rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, videographer, and fundraiser Waqas, hailing from the award-winning internationally acclaimed band Outlandish. Over the span of a 25-year career, the band released 6 inspirational albums and amassed an entourage of musical enthusiasts worldwide. Waqas has released several solo albums as well. In 2021, he went on a release journey he called 12 Months, 12 Singles. Every first Friday of the month, he released a single with the aim of describing an emotion, a feeling, or even a trauma. Waqas is still an active member of Outlandish, and they continue to successfully tour both in Denmark and abroad. Reaching out to Waqas was a pull from deep within and a leap of faith. Having seen him yearly do a 30-day long fundraiser during Ramadan for a girls' academy in his ancestral home of Pakistan, something stirred in me, and I wanted to know more about his spiritual journey. We're blessed this gorgeous soul, whom you'll also hear is actually my twin, said yes. Here is our sacred conversation. Okay, so this is a new situation for me, so I'm not really sure how to be doing this.
Okay.
You're the one who forced me out of my comfort zone and into this studio. So for those who are listening, or those who are used to watching this on YouTube or anywhere else, this is slightly different setup. I don't even know if the video that I'm making is going to make it into the final cut, but it will. If it does, happy for you, or you're going to be blessed. That's just to preface with everything saying that's we're rolling in a little different way today. But what I would like to start out by is having you introduce yourself. Waqas, would you do that for us?
Yes, I just want to start saying that when you initially contacted me about the podcast and we were going to do it over the phone, I was like, I'm a sound nerd, I'm just a nerd in general. So I was like, where are you situated? You said Nashville, and that's like 1 hour and 15 minutes from Copenhagen. I was like, no problem. If you find a studio or something, I'll drive all the way there. And here we are. So basically, thanks for having me. And my name is Waqas. I'm 48 years old. We share the same birthday.
Twins.
25th of March, 1976.
Yes.
Actually, the hospitals that we were born in were just a couple of miles apart or something.
Yes.
It's pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's some higher meaning with this
yes.
podcast. I'm married, been married for 25 years. I have a son, he's 24, and my daughter is going to turn 18 soon. By profession, I've been a musical artist in a band called Outlandish for the past 25 years, actually. And we've been doing music ever since. I'm Danish, so I'm very humble. Don't want to blow my own horns or anything, but
I will do that for you. Don't worry.
so we're a pretty big thing. We were in the,
Yes.
since we started, and now we're like in the late summer, fall of our career, you can say. We're matured, and we travel a lot, do a lot of concerts, and still make music. And we've been through quite a journey in the band.
Yeah.
But besides music, I don't just do music. I do all kinds of other stuff. I work with a couple of NGOs, one in Denmark, and that focuses on giving young kids from areas that you would call socially challenged, ghettos or whatever, kids who are flirting with the thought of potentially getting into gangs. So what they do basically is they give, along with the communes, they work with these kids and give them opportunity to join this 8-month course where they are to start a company, basically called a micro company. So but they go through the whole process of how it is to start a company, get the official number that you get with the tax and all that stuff, and they get 25,000 Danish kroners, and then they have to like conceptualize a product, whether that be a coffee cup or an event or whatever they feel like, and then they have mentor companies like Microsoft and IBM and all kinds of different companies to help them, and they come to visit them, and it's really cool because you can see the change in the kids. So my role basically is in the beginning of the process, I drive all around Denmark and I do like a motivational speak for them and also introduce them to the whole concept. Yeah. And then I'm besides doing music, I'm also a videographer. So I do videos. So I do these micro documentaries about them. Yeah. Where I follow the process and interview them and etc. So that's like one part of it, and then I have my heart, the Girls Orphanage Academy in Pakistan that I
the whole reason you're here.
Yeah, a project that I muscled myself into because I just wanted to be a part of it. But we can talk about that in depth. Yeah,
because that's like seeing that and what you've done with that over the past, I suppose, 2 years is one of the reasons why I was like,
oh, cool.
This man is not just a pop star or like a musical artist. He's actually someone who cares deeply. So that's part of the reason why you're here. Thank you. And thank you for sharing. I will absolutely be tooting your horn. I've been screaming to your music for years. And I don't know if you're in the fall of things, like we're only 40, like, and we can say that because we're twins, like you said.
Because it's the music scene is very like, you probably heard they say the music is a young man's game, a young woman's game, But it's like, we divide it up in like the spring. It's like when you're emerging, you're not quite there. So we've been through that, of course, like hustling and bustling and trying to get a record deal, etc. And then you get the record deal. First single, you build yourself. And then on the second album, basically that was like our summer, like sort of say, because that was like the peak of the career for a good 10 years. And then late summer is like when you start to, kind of be slightly older, more wise. And then in the fall is basically, I think it's where we are right now. We're not young anymore. We don't have the hype. No. But we have had the back catalog and hits, and we shaped the soundtrack for a whole generation. Yes. And we can what do you call it? Benefit from it by
absolutely
performing a lot. So right now. We do a lot of shows in Denmark and abroad because it's that we reached that level of nostalgia that people love to come and see the shows. And that happens to all artists, So you see even all the big artists. So they'll go like even Ed Sheeran. I mean, he's not in the fall yet, but he's doing crazy amount of shows. Not releasing so much music as he used to. No. He's still releasing, but he's doing a lot of shows. Bruno Mars, and all these Katy Perry and Adele, etc.
Does that mean that you're, I suppose, not satisfied? What's this? Because you can actually just, it's sort of like the image I get is like you're riding the wave.
Yeah.
You've created this ocean, and you're actually
Yeah.
essentially surfing the waves of that ocean that you've built. Or
Yeah, basically you are. I mean, you can, if we wanted to, we could stop making music today and still do shows till
Yeah,
we
yeah.
get old. But I always say that we're not passionate about music. We're naturally inclined toward music because we cannot
It's like
stop.
an
Yeah, we
yeah,
have to make, even if people are watching or listening or not,
yeah.
we'll still do it because when I
Yes.
wake up in the morning, it's
Yes.
music, you know.
Yes.
It's not like a passion that, you know, passion, it
Wanes.
it
Yeah,
fades and comes and
Yeah,
goes,
yeah.
but we're like naturally inclined towards it. It's just what
It's
we
an
do.
urge, a drive, a desire.
It's what we are, you know, to be creative, to create
yeah.
something. And I had that since childhood because I always saw my mother being creative in the house. You know, that we have in Pakistan, in India, we have these glass bangles
Yes.
that we put on.
Yeah.
So my mother, she would buy a lot of them, you know, and break them, and then she'll like make paintings with
Oh
them.
wow!
You know?
Like sort of like a mosaic.
Yeah,
of it?
exactly.
Oh, wow.
And she would paint, and she was really good at singing. You know, so I think somehow that inspired me,
Yeah.
and because I grew up feeling like Donald Duck.
Okay.
Basically, he was my biggest hero because he was so mediocre, and whatever he did, everything just went against him. And you know, he had this cousin who was, I don't know, Fidderhuiping is in Danish. I don't know what the name is in English, but I felt like Donald Duck, and I used to read a lot of Donald Duck comics. You know, so I grew up feeling mediocre.
Yeah.
So I always strive to stand out some way.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't want to, because I didn't like the attention if people looked at me. Because whenever I got attention, it was always being negative because I was one of the few brown kids in school or outside. So I would get picked on a lot.
Yes.
And I didn't, you know, I wasn't like a bully type myself. So I allowed myself to be bullied, you know. And Donald Duck was just like me, you know. He would take it until he would just like explode, you know.
Yeah.
And my explosion was basically the creativity,
The music.
So
you were actually able to channel that
Yeah.
over into something. I don't know if we want to call it productive, but creative.
yeah, create a creative way. Yeah, exactly. And I found my outburst through creativity, whether that be basketball, whether that be, I was pretty good at basketball. I was good at graffiti. I was good at breakdancing.
Yeah.
And so music just like kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of stuff
Yes.
based on hip hop because I remember all the way back in 1984 when hip hop basically started to emerge in Denmark. I had a babysitter, Nana, I remember her name and her face, but I have no pictures. She took me and my brother to see Beat Street.
Oh.
And I had no idea what that was, you know. She was just like, yeah, I'm going to, and I can just imagine her being a teenager, and hip hop was the big new thing in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
She took us in, we saw Beat Street, and since that day, I think that was in second grade, I've been like a disciple of rap music and hip hop and black culture.
I need to take you on a trip. So the place that we're recording, I should maybe do some shout outs because the whole reason, like, so you like pushed me out of my comfort zone and said you wanted to come here and like meet me in person. Like for an introvert like me, it's like, you want to meet me in person? Okay. So I went to my favorite coffee shop. We're in Nestville and it's Ausfahrt. And I said to the owner, like, he wants to record. Like, what am I going to do? And he's like, I know what you're going to do because we have the commune Nestville that we're in. They have these areas where it's called maker spaces where they happen to have a podcast studio where we're recording this. So I just want to do a shout out to Søren from Ausfahrt.
Definitely. Shout out Søren.
Who was inspiring this, and also to Makerspace. And a lot of this is actually driven by volunteers.
Wow.
So I want to do a shout out to that. And I also want to mention, because you're mentioning graffiti. So last week we had there was like a festival. I didn't attend, but Martha Cooper, who was she's the original photographer from the New York Post, I believe.
Wow.
Who took pictures of the New York graffiti and actually made that sort of quote unquote mainstream or brought it into mainstream media. She was here and gave a speech here. And we have two of the guys that run the youth center here. are they're actually present graffiti artists. So
cool.
that there's graffiti spaces and murals all over the
I
city.
saw that driving through the
Yes,
city, actually. It
yes,
was
there's
pretty
murals.
cool.
I'm going to give you an app because there's an app you can do where you can go
Oh.
through the tours. And if we go to the coffee shop later, they may even be there. But
Oh, that's
either
so
way,
cool. And the funny, just to finish that off, hip hop, I think it's the 12th of September, is turning 40 years old in Denmark.
Oh, wow.
So there's like a huge concert in Forum
Yeah.
in Copenhagen,
Yeah.
where they're gonna do like a walk through memory lane with some of the biggest DJs, Danish DJs throughout the time, and artists all the way back from Rockers by Choice, who were like some of the first to Den Gale Pose and Outlandish, and all the way to the new artists like Casey and Benny Jams and some of the big current artists. And they have an exhibition actually where they have these mantras where they put they've asked some artists to give them some artifacts so they can be like in a big exhibition in Copenhagen. And they asked for some of our stuff, and we have like a huge we have a studio where we have all our old stuff lying, so we just took some stuff and gave them. So it's actually going to be exhibited there. So hip hop's 2040.
Shout out. Okay, so thank you. I have to remember to be in front of the microphone.
Yes.
So apologies in advance if you all of a sudden don't hear my voice.
But it's going to sound good.
Waqas is reminding me. So, like I said, and we're going to kind of come back to that, to the girls' orphanage in Pakistan, because that is essentially, that was what inspired me to reach out. I think that's what inspired me to reach out to you, because I was like, like I said, that seemed really interesting. When did and I don't even know if you define yourself as a spiritual person or not, but when did your journey with something, I suppose, bigger than yourself begin? How did it begin?
That's a very big question. I mean, I don't, as soon as you say a religious person, it has like some type of negative twang to it. It has become that because of mass media and all that stuff. Spiritual, definitely. I'm definitely spiritual. I'm not like orthodox religious in terms of it's not, how to say, it's not like I don't base my life around religion. Religion is just part of life in a sense. And for me, it's not just a matter of, praying 5 times a day, reading the Quran every day, and, this and that. It's more, actually in Islam, they say, of the few things I know, they say that half your religion is your character, how you are as a person.
Yes.
And for me, that's very definitive. Like, okay, I need to be a good person, good human being, not just to show off in these social media times, but as, to really feel it and really sense it.
Yes.
When it began, it's been with me since childhood because, religion especially in Pakistani, Southeast Asian households, is very intertwined with culture. A lot of people, especially in Islam, they're like, you have to separate culture and religion, Islam, because it's two different things. And, because a lot of the cultures pre-outdates Islam. So there's like some pagan traditions that go in, like take marriage, for example.
Yes.
A Pakistani marriage is very based on the Hindu traditions.
Yeah.
It's several days, and while the traditional Muslim marriage is like you go to the mosque and you say yes, yes, and then you announce the wedding.
Done deal.
And then you announce the wedding by giving people food.
Okay.
So that's like been intertwined with a lot of the Indian traditions that we had, something called mehndi, where you put stuff on the hand. But that goes all around the world. Like if you go to some Arabic countries or, Southeast Asian countries, they have their tradition. And I find that a beautiful thing, that you can merge these things. And, it's been in my household since childhood. My mother's, like I told you, she has a really good voice. So she would Pakistanis, they have these small, I don't know what you call it, ceremonies, events, or whatever. Like you have the Sunday sermon or whatever, you know. So they would get together and they would sing some, you know, hymns or whatever with Islamic context to it, but in Urdu, in Pakistani. And my mother having a good voice, so she was like a superstar. Like, oh, we have to invite Farad. She has a beautiful voice, you know. And oh, you're the son of Farad? Oh, she has a very beautiful. I hope you have that too. Like, oh, okay. And she was like a star in that whole area. She would even be invited to the mosque, the local mosque, and do it there, you know, at these assemblies. Oh, wow. So it's been there. My father hasn't really. I haven't seen him being practicing religion in the same extent as my mother. Until he had his bypass operation, and that also changed his personality. He went from being a very, very stereotypical authoritarian.
Authoritarian.
Your English is so much better than mine. Authoritarian father to being this very soft-hearted person after he got his bypass. So I know it sounds stupid, but it's the best thing that happened to my relationship to him. Wow. Because before that, it was just cold stares and handshakes. You know, that was basically it. So that helped a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think a lot of the immigrants, the Muslims who came here, they weren't religious to start with. Because when I see the old pictures from the albums, I've seen some bottles on the table at the dinner parties, etc., and you know, and the big, you know, the 70s style outfits they had, and very loose, you know, chilled out atmospheres. But that's pretty natural, because then as they grow older, they long for, you know, home or whatever, or whatever mistakes they feel they've done, you know, they need to repent. Then they start turning to religion, you know. But I've also come to learn that, you know, religion spread across different countries came in like outbursts, but that has also to do with geopolitical agendas. The Saudi government needed to, you know, have an influence in Denmark or whatever.
Exactly.
So they started pushing different agendas here and there. You know, so some sort of Islam is more popular in some countries, blah, 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 you know. I've actually first coming to learn this in the recent years, you know, so it makes sense. Like and I find that really intriguing and interesting. So
the fingers that are in the places that you don't recognize or don't see initially, like the things that you start to find out is I want to see mind blowing, but it is, it's just crazy. It's making, at least it's making me. I don't know if it's question is the right word, but seek a deeper understanding of what's actually going on.
Yes.
And one of the things you mentioned was, which I really loved, was you said like it's about being a good person. Yeah. And I think that like that's an inherent value, or seems to be an inherent value for you, is like being a good person in whatever what you do. Yeah. Just to mention, like I just saw the other day that there was an article, or there's some uproar about a minister in Jutland who does not want to marry homosexuals or gay people and people who are divorced. And whenever I see that, I'm like have you lost? Like I signed out of the church years ago because I saw another situation where like an 80-year-old lesbian had, you know, her wife had passed away, and then she sat with the minister to prepare the burial, and they said, yeah, but she can't be buried in, you know, sacred ground because, you know, your relationship is, and I'm like, have you forgotten the word of Jesus? Like if you go back to like love is the way, love is like, so the whole idea that you would shun people or, you know, create diverse or you know divisiveness based on religion, like that's just, it does not make sense. It does not make sense to me. Well, that's not true. It does make sense to me, as you mentioned, from a geopolitical standpoint. It just because if they can create a divide between us, then they can have power and they can have money, and so from that sense, I do understand it. But from us, I think that we need to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to hate you because of your skin color or your religion or where you were born or who you love, how you like. No, I'm going to love you because of who you are, your values, and your actions. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
So unfortunately, in Pakistan, there's like it's so things that contradict each other. Like at one place, homosexuality is not looked well upon,
No.
and right next to it, you have one of the biggest communities of transgender people,
Oh wow.
men who identify themselves as women, dressed as women, singing at weddings, singing at what do you call it when a child is born? It's like common
Baptism.
knowledge, that they come to the house, they play, and you give them money. Because and even religious people I've heard say that they are really close to God because they're so pure in what they are. You don't mistreat them, and they're like all over the place, and so
living their authentic lives.
So that's like the but of course a country like Pakistan, then some have turned that stuff into like a mafia and money making machine, whatever. That's a different story. But it's just to say that it's like it's so chaotic, strange, and beautiful at the same time. That you and oftentimes we look at these countries as black and white. They're just so homophobic. But have you come to and looked at how it looks like in the streets? And people actually respect these people. So.
And that's like what you're describing is life. Life is messy. Like life is not black and white. No. Life is messy. Life is painting with all of the colors, and we're constantly evolving, growing, and expanding. So, okay. So in terms of, what I hear you say is like that. There's also some sort of like there's an action part of your, I suppose, spirituality, like because it involved being a good person. So how have you? How have your connection? I don't know if you want to define it as God. For me, God is not religious. God is source. God is energy. God is love. God is not some old white dude sitting on a.
God is beyond. I mean, I believe in whatever religion or spiritual, direction or whatever. God is. We can't really comprehend the greatness of that entity.
Yes.
So that entity in different religions has somehow, you're human, your understanding is so limited. So this is like, here is the package that you will understand. But even that package, you're not fully understanding because then you're dividing it and turning into Allah, God, Yahweh, and blah, 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 blah. And you're fighting amongst each other, and
exactly.
And then,
exactly. When the source is the same thing, like why are we fighting? Okay, so in terms of when you first started your career, because I can imagine, well, no, I can't really imagine, but I try to imagine, and I, work with clients who are on stages in front of thousands of people, and how do you navigate that while staying true to yourself and authentic? Because I imagine, and we've seen it across the globe, that it's easy to lose yourself. I thought it was really interesting that you said that Outlandish has been on for 25 years and you've been married for 25 years. That's sort of like there's a correlation between that, to which I think is absolutely beautiful.
So being married so early actually was a good thing because it kind of gave me focus to what I was doing, and it kept me humble. And it kept me not doing all kinds of and so that was a good thing, and I became a father pretty early, like 24 years old. I was a father, as old my son is now. That I was the same age when I had him. So that actually was one part of it. The other thing was that when we burst through, I was still under some cultural restraints somehow because I signed my contract, our contract, without my parents knowing. Because I grew up in a household where it wasn't looked good upon being an artist. Because
even with your mom and the mom?
Yeah, because, that
was for a different purpose.
Yeah, that was for a different purpose or whatever. But, they came in the 70s. So they, for many, many years, they still had, even though the world was moving on, they still had that 70s state of mind, you know, and a lot of immigrants, they suffer from that. And when they go back to their countries visiting, they have even moved forward and they're still stuck in that time pocket.
Which makes sense because I want to emphasize the part of the, politics for Denmark with inviting a lot of immigrants were, we don't need to integrate these people because eventually they'll return to their countries. And that was the policy for many, many years. And I remember finding that out when I was in high school, and it was like that's...
And that's also why...
So we're part of it. I just want to mention that.
So that's also systemic. Why a lot of people from that generation, their Danish skills and their level of integration really lacks.
Exactly,
somehow,
because we didn't think we needed to integrate them, and so now we blame it.
And that also created a gap between my generation and my parents' generation. So because we were like here, they didn't want us to become too Danish.
I remember,
Also because you have to imagine that they fought really hard against their parents leaving. Like, why are you going to leave us? And we need you here in the market or in the whatever, help us here. Why you want to go there? So they had their own fight. So
I had a Moroccan boyfriend, so I know that and his parents of course didn't know that we were going out, and so I saw the close up, the difficulty You can't be too Danish. When you were with, I didn't ask that of him, but when he was outside of his home, he had to be Danish. And then when he was at home, he had to be Moroccan. So I totally get the whole.
So that was a very, for my generation, we were a very confused generation because exactly when you're home, you have to be Pakistani.
Yeah.
When you're out, you have to be Danish. Yeah. And so you're somewhere in limbo, caught in the middle, Yeah. And, for us, that was a positive thing in a sense. We made Outlandish because that's exactly what that whole,
Massive
the band was about,
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that I grew up as a very insecure child. I grew up very insecure, low self-esteem, big fan of Donald Duck, not Superman, not Spider-Man. It was Donald Duck because I could relate to his struggles and people picking on him and all that stuff. So... I had that for many, many years. So I didn't tell my parents because my parents, for them, they couldn't justify to, the people back in Pakistan is that why you came to Denmark? Because that your son's going to be like a wedding singer or whatever? Because that's what it was,
Yes.
Because in Pakistan at that time, all the artists, they were either wedding singers or, old prostitutes turned models and, whatever.
Yeah.
So for them, it was like, it would be, so I didn't tell them. So I just lived that double life.
Wow.
Yeah. Next to it, they didn't know that their son was like a big
rising star. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, exactly. So when the contract came and we had done the demo and my parents didn't know and we were to sign it, I was like, I'm just going to sign it. Not even going to bother.
But were
telling.
You were over 18 at the time?
Yeah, we were over 18. Signed it and, boom. And then I told my brother and he was exhilarated and he told my uncle and then my stupid uncle told my parents.
Of course.
And then when I came back from school one day and they were like, sit down. And then we had the whole thing. Yeah. And I did what everyone would do. I lied. I said, if I tear apart the record deal, they're going to sue you. I'm like, oh no, don't sue. No, okay. So I made a deal. It was like, you can continue, but don't tell anyone about it. And I was like,
good luck with that.
I was like, all right, cool, works for me. But it turned out well because the first album came out, the reviews came out, and I think when the first time we appeared at the Danish Music Awards, we won an award there, and we performed. And because our music was very intertwined with our home countries, the culture, so it was very cultural. Yeah. So I remember my father called me while we were driving in the limo that we have been granted so luckily, and he was like, "That's the first time he called me." I was like, "I'm proud of you, my son." I was like, "Shit," that was like, and that changed our relationship. From it wasn't my son that I had a son that didn't change anything. It was the fact that he could look and he was like, okay, I'm proud. Because then now, when he's out with his friends, people are like, oh,
Yeah.
you're the father of
Yeah.
Waqas. He's doing really good
No,
for our
yeah.
culture, and he's like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, so that was like the turning point.
I think that maybe that's parents like because like my mom has no idea what she does not understand what I do. Like she knows that I sit in front of a computer and I talk to people. That's sort of like that's what I do.
Zoom calls.
But, yeah, Zoom calls. But she doesn't have any. But she's still supportive of me.
Yeah.
She just doesn't know.
Yeah.
So to be able to see you like on TV and be able to tell your friends,
Yes.
this is what he does.
Yeah. My
I
father
get
went
it.
from
Yeah.
from being a opponent to start cutting out newspaper
Aw,
articles
yeah,
about us
yeah.
and like
Scrapbooking,
VHS cassettes
yeah.
and all that stuff. But somehow the damage was done pretty early on. So even though we were rising stars and we had success, I was a very like I had a lot of like self-esteem issues. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
dealt with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And when people listen to some of our songs, they'll hear a verse, oh my gosh, you sound so cool here and so cool what you're saying. Me, I can just hear that insecure kid
Yeah.
like shaking in his voice and all that stuff,
Yeah.
So I connect some of our songs, some of our biggest songs actually, with not so fond memories while recording it because I was so insecure. I became a father early. I couldn't spend all night in the studio, which was the norm, like the two other band members,
Well,
So
hold on. So the thing is, you could have chosen to, but
I-
you chose not to. I just want to
Yeah.
highlight that
But the
because
thing is, maybe I didn't. Maybe I was, again, saying the thing that I'm being brutally honest here, also
Yes.
with myself. I could have said, I'm just going to, screw you, wife, screw you,
Yeah,
kid.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just going to
exactly.
go do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't dare to jeopardize that. I was a people's pleaser,
yeah,
like for many years of my life,
Yeah.
trying to please my parents, when I had my wife, not when I had when I have my son, me and my wife, please them, please Lenin Isam, please the
Yeah.
record company. So I was just like pleasing. And somehow I kind of lost a big chunk of who I was,
Okay.
or I actually suppressed it
yeah,
to please people
yes,
somehow,
Yes.
And suddenly I had to also please the audience. So I became the one who was going to be the entertainer.
yeah,
In hindsight, worked out really good because I'm a magnificent entertainer
Yes.
on stage.
yes,
So, but I was very much like you, an introvert. Still consider myself an introvert. I just have some like tools that
yeah.
I can like people get amazed that they see me on stage.
Yeah.
I'm smashing it. They're just like, wow.
Yeah.
And then we come off stage and people come backstage and
Yeah.
I'm just like chilling, not saying so much. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
I thought you would be like,
Yeah, yeah.
the center of the party. I am not
Yeah.
the center of the party at
Yeah.
all.
No.
So I had to fast forward. I had to really, and in 2017,
Yeah.
we kind of broke up
Yeah.
because there was a lot of issues internally, mostly internally.
Yeah.
And then my whole world kind of fell apart because I had invested all of me
Yes.
in Outlandish because this was the only place that I felt successful in life. Like, wow.
yeah.
Because I'm so stupid. I didn't look at my wife and my kids and like, this is success. Because no, this is success, which was so stupid. And
You're looking at what the world tells you success is supposed to look like. Yeah.
So when Outlandish stopped, my whole world kind of fell apart because I had so much invested. My DNA was in that.
Yeah,
you
your
know.
identity, everything.
So
Yeah.
I had to spend some years like really cope with it. But then me and Lenny, we started working together again, and the whole team kind of came together without the third member, Isam. So we just like, okay, this makes sense.
It sounds like that what you're describing is on a spiritual level what's called a dark night of the soul, and that is when everything simply fall apart. That,
Yeah.
like every door is slammed in your face. Everything
Yeah.
is just. I've just recently been through one, and I didn't realize it until I was actually writing an article about a dark night of the soul, and I was like, oh, I was writing about the symptoms. I was like, oh, check. I'm like, oh, check.
Wow.
It seemed so. It sounds like who is it? Is it Leonard Cohen who says like the cracks is where the light gets in?
It's the darkest right before dawn. Something.
Yeah.
The crack of dawn.
Yeah.
That's so true because I was really in a bad place. I had imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because suddenly
Yes.
when Outlandish stopped, I started to dig into my skill sets, and suddenly okay, I can do videos, I can actually produce, I can sing too, I can. But then all these doubts came, like, okay, all my video friends are going to be like, who the hell does he think he is?
Yes.
All these voices come in your head.
Yes.
Gosh, you want to sing now?
Yes.
You're nothing compared to Isam. He's the voice of Outlandish. You're just shit, And same thing with whatever I attempted to do.
Yes.
These voices came into my head, and they were so overpowering that I just gave into them.
Yes.
And what happened was I couldn't write songs anymore. I didn't feel like doing anything. I became a bad father, a bad husband, and then slowly, what you call a midlife crisis, basically, But so slowly and gradually, with the team around us, the friends, we started to start from scratch again.
Yeah.
And it's been a really long journey since 17 up till now. But now I'm in a really, really good space. Been that the last 3-4 years, actually.
Nice.
Whereas everything makes sense. I also saw a psychologist. I had like a long.
I was going to ask what you did.
Long sessions with psychologists and a beautiful soul called Julie Lindell. She's like one of the top vocal coaches in Denmark.
Okay.
And she made me cry at a point while I was singing, and she really pushed me, and I just broke down, and I was like, "What the hell? I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
And she was like, "There you were."
Yes.
That feeling,
Yes.
that's what I want from you.
Yes.
You can sing. You've just you're so many layers. You've just shut down and covered.
Yes.
We need to open you up.
Yeah.
And you might not catch that feeling every time, but just try to chase it with whatever you do, and trust in yourself, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but when you hear someone else say it, it's like, it makes sense.
I have those are one of, when I have sessions with clients, those are some of the moments where, I tear up. You saw me, I cried even before we started recording when you shared something. But when I tear up is when we connect you with your heart. And I've had people, you say, break down in tears because you're so marveled by and overcome by. And I think for me, at least when I experience it, it's an experience that transcends words because it's so outside of. So it's just this connection.
It's a spiritual experience,
Connection. Yeah.
I had something similar. Actually, I was so afraid of it. We had a show in Riyadh, and right after, me, my wife, and my friend, we went to do the little pilgrimage called Umrah.
Okay.
In Mecca and Medina.
Okay.
And my whole life, as a Muslim, your whole life is like, you look forward to that. It's like Disneyland, a spiritual Disneyland. You have to go. And I was so afraid because we were like, what if I go and I don't feel anything? Might as well not feel anything. What is the purpose of all this? So I did a lot of research because I just didn't want to be like one in the flock of many just doing the standard thing.
Because you had to and check it off.
Yeah,
the box.
exactly.
Okay.
So
again, external validation or success. Yeah.
So when we arrived, it was, I had the same experience. I just landed, and as soon as we entered and I saw it, and I just broke down, and I couldn't explain why. No. I was like, "Is it because I love God? I love what is it? There's something I don't know what it is, but I'm just gonna embrace it and chase it because there's something bigger than me. Yeah, I feel connected with something, and of course, as kids, the pictures on the wall constantly, and like. If imagine if you see Jesus all the time on the cross and then suddenly you see him face to face. So it was something really a divine spiritual experience. I wouldn't even call it a religious experience. It was
But from what you're describing, and this is what I've seen or felt with, and is my theory about these places, is because energetically, there is so much intention, so many prayers, so much love poured into these places, and that goes whether you go to usually a church or a mosque or a temple or whatever it is you go to, or these places that energetically all of that is like the ground, the place is permeated with it.
Exactly.
And so you come into that vibration and resonance, you cannot help but be touched. Like even the hardest of hearts will be touched by that vibration. Is my own
No,
personal
I totally
theory
agree.
about those
I went
places.
to, and I'm not a Christian. We were just on vacation in Istanbul, and Istanbul has a lot of really, really old churches that pre-outdates Islam in that area.
Yeah.
So we went to me and my daughter, we love that type of stuff. So suddenly we found this really old church, and we just went in, sat down.
Yeah.
And you were just
Serenity.
overpowered by this. Wow.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
and went out and told my daughter, did you feel that? It's like, yeah. It's like, wow, so cool. So
that's how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's when, not that this is going to be about religion, but that welcoming, that openness, that's what it, again, nobody has a copyright on God.
No.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So it sounds like you went through that, and then you've arrived at the place where you actually feel grounded in yourself. You feel confident. You feel, that's amazing.
I went on a journey of self-discovering and self-realization. My good buddy Vicky Singh, who's our guitar player, I remember during Corona.
Yeah.
Right after Corona ended, and they started opening up so you could play shows.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him for like 2 months, and he came and he was just glowing. And Vicky is very in touch with his spiritual side, and so I was like, Vicky, man, you're glowing. Like, oh, thank you. How could you tell? Like, I don't know, something about you.
Yes.
I want that.
Yes.
Like, no, I've been on a journey.
Yeah.
He's very much into ayahuasca, so he's been doing that on ceremonies, etc. So it's like, I just like, really felt, boom, fulfilled, and, discovered a lot of things about myself, my childhood, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, wow. And that kind of
really
inspired me to do my own. I haven't done ayahuasca or anything, but it just, some channels just opened up on a subconscious level that allowed me to, really dive deep into myself and see, okay, who is this guy?
Yes.
Let me get to know this guy, because
go into
I haven't,
the darkness.
because I haven't, allowed myself to go into the darkness and really go into the deep parts of myself and learn myself, who am I without all these filters and people pleasing and all that stuff? Who am I? I'm still not there, but I've opened up, for it. And
and I think that's an evolving journey. And I think that's one of the misconceptions about spirituality is like, oh, so you go on this and then you do this ascension and then you're taking off and saying, see ya, suckers, I'm on to the next life, which I don't. I think it's about being in life and in collaboration with life.
For sure.
One thing I just want to emphasize in terms of ayahuasca, because you mentioned that, and any other mind expanding drugs, is if someone is doing it, make sure that you're with someone who absolutely knows what they're doing,
For sure.
and someone who knows how to bring you back.
For sure.
Because I've never done any. I'm afraid of those drugs because of not coming back. And I know people who have done these things and struggle being on earth back afterwards. So it's really important that you are grounded. If you do chakra work, like look at your lower chakras, make sure that you are grounded, and that when you're done with the journey, that you're brought back properly and grounded into your physical vessel. I'm sorry. I just want to emphasize that
really,
because it's one of those drugs that are really, it seems to be going around.
Without being an expert on drugs, because I've not done drugs, it's, some drugs I've heard people say that if you're, it just emphasizes and strengthens that part of you, which is there. So if you're an aggressive type, if you get drunk, you'll be aggressive. If you smoke weed, you're a lovable guy, you'll be very lovable. If you're depressed, on the other hand, it can.
But how did you, being in the spaces that you're in, how did you avoid drugs? Because maybe I'm like just being very, I don't know.
I'm not saying my character is very strong that I can, no, but because a lot of it has to do with me being a straight up chicken, So
that actually turns out to be a really good thing.
Yeah, because then there's cocaine on the table, and I'm like, oh no, I don't dare, because I don't.
Yes.
And plus, Am I going to regret it? What is God going to say? What is people going to say? What are people going to think of me? What's going to happen to me? So all these,
Wow,
things
okay.
somehow worked in my
makes it-
favor.
Yes, absolutely.
Same thing with if you were, offered drugs or girls or whatever,
Yeah.
you'd be like, no, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no, no,
yeah.
no, no. Now, I'm more like, if there's cocaine on the table,
Yeah.
I can with 100% certainty
Yeah.
say, no, thanks, I'm
Yeah.
not into that.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yeah.
but if I want to,
Yes.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
makes sense. Yeah.
and
yeah,
I'll face
yeah.
the consequences of
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
And
yes.
that goes for everything in life now. And I like to be in that
Yes.
position now, that I can just with a clean heart say,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
thanks, no
Yeah.
thanks. I'm good.
Brilliant. Okay. So again, going back to in terms of a lot of what you're saying is what I hear is there is a again action, and us being twins, meaning we're both Aries,
Yeah.
that would make sense that there would be a lot of action in your doing, but it's also in your values and in your integrity, I suppose, and values in action, leading to making a very leading question into the orphanage, because I think I remember the first time I saw about it was not this year, but I think last year.
Okay.
What led you to do that and start that and be part of that? Yeah, let's start there.
The first single we ever released was in 1997. It was on a charity album with different artists, and it was to be sold in a Danish equivalent to Tesco, or it's called Superbrugsen.
Yes.
So you bought like a magazine, and the CD was there, and we did a song called Pacific to Pacific. So that was like our introduction to the world of music.
Yeah.
By doing charity, being part of something bigger than us. And that has always been a part of who I am, the band. And we've always fought against social injustice and, for the rights of minorities. A lot of our music, our name, Outlandish, comes from this,
Yes.
So we've always been on the side of the people who are oppressed or war-torn or whatever. So we always made songs and built our identity around that. It's always been part of us.
Yes.
So it wasn't so alien for me to do, but I've always worked with. So what I basically do every Ramadan, the Muslim month of fasting, I've always done, like, for the past 13 years, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've been doing these daily reports on Instagram.
Yeah.
So every day, it started as a joke. So I'm going to document every day, what's going on. Oh, today I'm hungry. Today I had a headache. Today I'm, And that gradually turned into bigger and bigger, and people started watching more and more and more. And, suddenly I started, okay, let me try to do some fundraising. So I started, working with different charities, collecting money for building a well in a desert somewhere, or, feeding the poor, blah, blah, blah. But the intention is good, but at some point I was like, this is not like, because you know how charities work. They have big sponsors, they have a chunk of money, and they allocate that money for a specific thing, and then they get the influencers and people to cover that hole, and that's how it works, and it's perfectly all right. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've always been known for being authentic. So if I say we're gonna build a well here, I want to be able to show you that well being built, but I could never do that because it just goes into the big pile. So 4 years ago, I was contacted by someone from the U.S. saying, "Hey, I see you're on vacation in Pakistan. We have a boys' orphanage in Taxila, which is an ancient city in Pakistan, up in the mountains, made by Alexander the Great. Taxila means the city cut of rock. So so that was like his powerhouse. That's a totally different topic, but I always love telling that. So I was like, yeah, why not? I took my family there. They picked us up, and we went, and I fell in love with the whole concept. Wow, this is so cool. The boys, they live here. They have some horrific stories. Most of their fathers were killed by the Taliban because they come from mountainous areas, and many of them are Shiite Muslim, and they're marginalized, etc. So I was like, this is so cool. And they like get martial art training and, everything. So I contacted the owner of the whole institution. He lives in the US. Like, yo, if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know, because I would be more than happy to assist in whatever. And it was like, actually, now that you're saying it, next year we're going to build a girls' orphanage in the capital. I was like, girls' orphanage? So like, okay, so what do you need? Like right now we have a building, it's empty. We need bunk beds, we need, blankets, we need computer rooms and tables and chairs. Like, okay, give me a budget. He gave me a budget, like, I got you. So I made like this whole campaign. I was sitting like we're sitting, a camera in front of me, and just like 30 days just doing like, funny videos, and like implementing the whole thing. And I gathered around $27,000 in 1 month.
Yeah.
And, and the cool thing was then that money was actually used to buy these things.
Which you could see.
So I told him like the following year, would you mind flying me to Pakistan?
Yeah.
So I can show people all this
benefits,
and do some interviews with the girls, and like I love to meet them, and like cool. They flew me down a month before Ramadan, and I did 30 episodes there in 10 days. It was really hard. It was really difficult because so I showed the beds. I sat down with the girls, and when I sat down with the girls, that actually sort of changed my life.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how blatant honest we can be here, but some of the stories were so horrific, because a lot of these girls, basically in Pakistan, if you lose your father, you're basically an orphan.
Yeah.
Because the mother can't support you. A lot of times the family gets the mother remarried, and then the new family, they don't approve of the child, so the child has to go live with, relatives. And often the relatives, she's a burden. She just gets to work in different people's homes. And oftentimes these girls, they're misused.
Yeah.
And they're traumatized.
Yeah.
So they started this orphanage, this academy. They don't even want to call it an orphanage, because their whole concept is empowering these girls and making them strong, independent women, So I did so many interviews, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. And I, cried while I was there with them. I didn't show them I was crying because I'm a man, whatever. So I went into the room next to her, and I was like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah.
And there was it's actually, I'm pretty proud of this series, because you also see me sitting in front of the camera midways. I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this for likes, if I'm doing this for whatever. I just hope my intentions are pure, because damn, these girls, they need help.
Yes.
So whatever you can do, please help them. Yes. And I don't know if, whatever, just do whatever we can. And, people loved it, because they saw it, and then they were like, damn, take my money.
I'm going to go back to the, again, energetic.
Yeah.
Because when we can sense when someone is real. Like we can sense when something is authentic and with integrity, and that resonance is felt. So that's what we respond to. Go ahead.
I also hope that, and I feel that, because every year it's increased. So my biggest project till date was that I went on the rooftop. It's like in the middle of city, like a building like this in the middle of city. The girls, they're orphans. They're not allowed to, because they come from mountain villages. So the parents are very, very backwards.
Yeah.
So just the fact that the mother decides to give up her daughter to this place, she has to fight a big fight with her relatives, because they're like getting accused of prostitution or whatever. Yeah. So you're misusing the girls at this orphanage. You're doing like, it's like a whorehouse or whatever. It's all kinds of stuff, you know. Wow. So they've fought a brave battle to sending the daughters here. Yeah. So the rooftop was really messed up, metal rods all over. It looked like crap. So I was like, hey, again, I don't want to step outside my jurisdiction or boundaries, whatever. I'm just like doing this. Do you mind if we turn this rooftop into an activity center? Because in Denmark, we have these really cool rooftop activity center with greenery and all that stuff. Yeah. They loved the idea, but it's going to be costly. It's like how much? $56,000. They made a budget. Like, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
that year I fundraised for that,
Yeah.
and we smashed it. People loved it, and the year after,
Yay.
this was last year.
Yeah.
I went and I showed the
Everywhere.
freaking rooftop. You know, it
Nice.
was so cool, and people were just like, you know, and I have like a handful of donors who like, you know, someone donated $10,000, $20,000.
Wow.
So it just increased because they could see that, wow, this is,
Yes.
you know, he's actually not just putting the money in his pocket. He's actually showing us what's happening, you know.
They can see the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I interviewed the same girls and the new girls, and they can just see the development in the girls, how they're just evolving, you know.
That to me, and that's what made me cry before we started recording, or tear up, is because this is affecting change on a very individual level. But like you said, it's empowering these girls, and what they then will be, like the beacons that they will become, no matter what they do. I don't care if they're a nurse or a school teacher or, you know, pop star, whatever they be. They will always have that stable foundation, and that is changing lives, and that's creating ripples.
It is.
It is. That's just.
And to top it,
Go ahead.
to top it, this year, like this Ramadan, I did another campaign for them. And I just, okay, let's just go all out. What if we buy land and build our own academy? Because it's a rental place, you know, things fall apart. It's Pakistan. It's not good material, et cetera, et cetera. And the guy, they loved the idea. The board loved the idea. And they actually had similar thoughts. So it kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
But it was going to be costly. So it would be in total about $500,000 US dollars.
US dollars. Yeah.
So this year, my campaign, and I started fundraising for that,
Yeah.
you know, and showing all the bad things about the academy, you know, outside.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
also just had floodings. So all 80%
Yeah.
of all the books, they went, you know, and it's a bad environment for the girls in general. So it was going a bit slow. So I contacted some of my friends in Dubai who have big companies. I was like, hey, can't you guys like get together and like maybe $1,000 or $2,000 just like boost the campaign, fundraise?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you need? Like a couple of thousand. No, how much do you need to like make that academy and buy the land? And like, I don't know, about $500,000. And without hesitation, he said, I think we can do that. I was like, sorry, what? Long story short, I connect them with the board of the school academy, and they were also like, what? You know? And, you know, sometimes when good souls come together and meet, because one of the biggest things that Zia, the guy who has the academy, had was, but who's going to own the land? Who's going to own the academy? Because we want this to surpass our lives and go on for generations. And we don't want to be in a situation where someone owns it and they'll be like, their kid's going to be like, no, we have to sell it because of whatever. And, you know, the guys from Dubai, no, we're just going to create like some sort of hedge fund that, you know, owns this thing and the money's going to go in here.
Now you're making me cry again.
And it's going to surpass us, our lives. And it's like planting a tree, you know, you'll benefit as long as someone takes shades in it, eats from that. That's what we believe. You know, the energy, the blessings will keep coming us long after we're not here.
Yes.
You know, because that's why it's so important to plan.
Securing the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was in a meeting yesterday with the whole team, and they had hired the biggest architect company in Pakistan that does some of the biggest shopping malls and some of the state of the art.
Yes. People who know where they're.
Yeah, exactly. So they've secured the land. They did all these models, 3D models, and, you know, it looks amazing. And actually, the funny thing is, I told them, it looks very Scandinavian.
No.
It looks very, like, simplistic and...
Well, it's rubbing off. You're rubbing off on them.
It's so cool, you know. And, of course, there were some, you know, corrections and here, can we do this, can we do that, blah, blah, blah. But we're and...
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So next, I'm going to Pakistan again in Jan.
Yeah.
So... just imagine. Okay, I'm going to give it away if people can listen. The first episode, I'm going to be standing on the soil, and I'm going to be able to tell people we did this. This is happening.
This is what we do.
You know, and that's probably the highlight. It's going to be the highlight of my life already, and it's going to be, I can't even fathom it right now that what's happening basically.
Well, something I really want to highlight about the journey that you shared is how it's an expanding journey and a growing journey.
Yeah.
Like if you had started out by saying, no, I don't want to, I want my own orphanage. I want it to be built on land and blah, blah, blah. You could have fought and, for years without.
Yeah.
But instead you went in and it's one of the things that I always share with people is like people think that they look at the end, right? Yeah. But they forget to take the first little step and the next little step and the next little step. Exactly. And maybe we can do an activity center on the roof. Maybe we can do this. So step by step by step. So sometimes, because there tend to be this, and I suppose social media is part of that, like, the glossy, we see all the outcomes, the result of things, but we don't see the messiness in between.
Exactly. Every Ramadan when we finish, I tell myself I'm not going to do this again because I also need people to understand that making 30 episodes in 1 week, I have to script everything, what I say in the pitch and all that, But
that has to do with a couple of things. Number one, your integrity,
yeah,
your eye for detail, and your quality. Hence, we're also sitting in this podcasting studio, being like that's like. So I also, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. I mean that as a good thing because that speaks of the quality of work that you deliver.
Hard. I switched outfits like 3 times in one day.
Yes.
Just to so everything is scripted and ready.
Yes.
So when I go, I just execute. Because I also there's. What you just said as a part of it, but also another part of it is I want to be able to give these girls the best of the best and the best opportunity. Yes. Because if I'm slacking, if I'm not doing it proper, if I know that I could have done it better to increase the donations, then I would hate myself for not being able to do that.
Makes sense.
And I mean, again,
you obviously have an attention, and I get it. I mean, if I do a couple of, if I'm not doing in podcast studio and I have 2 recordings in one day, I will change my outfit as well, or the earrings or whatever. So it's, I totally get it. I just want to emphasize that has to do with your integrity, your authenticity, your values, your what's the word? Not desire, not need, your striving, which is
striving,
But again, it goes back to you're not striving for yourself.
No.
You're not even. You're striving for someone else and for some other thing.
This is the only, and I've allowed this to be that all year long, all life, we do things for ourselves.
Yes.
Buy
as we should.
I buy nice clothes for myself. We perform and we get all the endorphins and all that. The
it's
career.
Both and. Yeah.
So this is the only thing in my life where I can 100% say that my intentions are not about self-glorification or whatever. It's about doing something good for others. And I think everyone, and we're really good at that in Denmark, doing voluntary work. Everyone should try to engage in something in their lives where it's not about them.
Yeah.
The benefit is so rewarding because you're not doing it for the sake of getting something in return. No. But you will get something in return. That's also
way more than you
besides
expect.
this. I also work with that other NGO that I told you about, with the kids doing entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's a headache because these kids are rowdy.
Yeah.
And you're like, why am I doing this? And I speak with a lot of big business people who help these kids, and they have the same feeling. But the reward you get afterwards, when you see that it has an impact, you made an impact on these kids to do better in their life. You
change the trajectory of their lives.
You cannot measure that in any currency, any money, because it's like, again, on a cosmic level. Yes. You're putting some good energy out there, and the reward you get back is like, I can say the last 4 years, my life's been so serene, no financial worries, no like big downs, of course we all meet them. Even if there are downs, I know how to face them at the moment, and I truly believe in my heart that it's because I'm doing something for others without expecting anything in return.
Wow.
And I totally I'm a believer of that. You put something good out there without expectations, something good will come back.
100%.
In different ways or forms.
Okay. We're way over time, but I have,
Oops,
I have,
sorry.
no, this is amazing. I have, this is exceeding my expectations. I have a couple of questions. One question that appeared is spiritually returning to, or not even returning because you were born in Denmark, but going to Pakistan. How has that been, if it has been a spiritual experience or...
It has.
Yeah.
Every time I go to Pakistan now,
Yeah.
it's a spiritual experience. Before, it used to be a pretty bummer down, experience because that's what you did. You spent your summers in Pakistan because that's where your parents went. Yeah. So it wasn't like, and you only visited families.
Yeah.
Now when I go every year now. I've been going every year now for the last 6 years. Nice. Also because my kids want to go. Yeah. They love it. They're grown-ups. They want to feel that attachment to the soil. There is some spiritual connection with the soil. Yeah, same thing with me. Yeah. I hate Pakistan. I love Pakistan because the Danish side of me hates it because everything is chaotic and it doesn't make sense and you get diarrhea and and people are strange and their values are obscure sometimes and the family traditions and the way it works is like so beyond anything that I could comprehend because I'm from Denmark. But there's something in me that finds peace in the chaos when I'm there now. Yeah. My father is from a mountain area up north, so I love the mountains. Go there and I often just leave me there. But we go to Lahore, which is like also a very old cultural Mughal city. So I love getting lost in the small, narrow streets there, just walking around and finding these old, Hindu temples from way back and mosques from 16th century. You just go in and it's like a time pocket,
and you have an eye. I mean, if anyone, you just have to look at your Instagram to see that you have an eye for things because it's like you can just get lost, and especially also because I think that's actually how you don't know this, but like that's how I originally connected with you was through coffee.
Oh, yes.
Because we share a love for a passion for coffee. So that's how I think I initially connected. You didn't connect. I connected with you through that. So again, your Instagram is just there's a lot of
a lot of coffee.
And I loved you had this whole series about coffee farts with your. It was
latte fart, not latte art. Yeah, because I suck at it.
But you're getting better. But so that's how. But again, I encourage people to check out your Instagram because again, the videographer in you, it's obvious. One final question I have. Since this podcast is named Mastery, I've started asking people this question, like, what is mastery to you?
Wow. You could have prepared me for that.
I probably should.
What is mastery? I mean, I don't think...
Or how do you view it? What comes up for you? You don't have to...
Unachievable.
Unachievable?
And for me at least. And hopefully I will never achieve mastery because I love being... in search of mastery. Yeah. The pursuit of happiness, or pursuit of mastery, of fine-tuning your art in whatever you do, and I truly believe that's like this old Sufi saying that fear the one who says he's found the truth, follow the one who's in search of it.
Yes. Wow.
So, I mean, and that's, a lot of the problems in the world comes from this, that people say they found the absolute truth.
100%.
Whether it's politics or the way society should work or religion or whatever.
Yes.
But the one who's searching for it is always like.
But to me, for me, because I think that you are a master at your art, and even
thanks.
and while you might be, I understand the pursuit, and I think for me, because mastery, it encompasses both, and so I can both be the master at my craft. I am very good at what I do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I think that that is the holy grail and it's the one true thing and
True.
there's nothing else and
True.
I won't ever be evolving. But I think, I think that's part of why I had to name this podcast Mastery, was for my own for my own development. I had to own my own mastery
For sure.
while also still being the beginner and the student and the learner.
We're so bad at like bigging ourselves up in general, because when we do, it's like looked frowned upon.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
you know?
so you think you're something. It's
Yeah.
like, yes, I do think that I'm something.
But I do agree. I am good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm really good at few things.
Yeah.
But I'm never satisfied with what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I let it be up to people to define if he's a master of this.
Yes.
You know,
But
okay,
you are.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You heard it here first.
Nah, life is beautiful. Life is good.
Yeah.
And you know, if you need to have like, I try to keep a positive outlook on things. I mean, even though the world is crazy burning right now, I can get, you know, I deleted Twitter X recently because whenever I felt too much in a good mood, I just went there to just like, you know, bring myself down a bit.
Yeah.
There's so much dirt out there that it's hard not to be absorbed by it. But I mean, it's easy for me to say I'm here and we're in Denmark. Everything is hunky-dory, nice and quiet. But when I see the suffering out there, I can feel rage inside.
Yeah.
So I can just imagine how people suffering, whether it's earthquakes or wars or whatever, how they... I mean, it's easy for us to point a finger. Yeah, you should just be patient. You should just be da-da-da. If you're in that situation, how would you react? You know, so I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm honored and happy and privileged to be able to live a life where I can, you know, seek the mastery.
Yeah.
You know? Like some people in Pakistan say, you know, art and creativity is for the rich, because they have the time to do that. But at the same time, some of the biggest artists in Pakistan, they come from the streets.
Yes.
Because that's all they have.
Yeah.
That little talent they have, they master that.
Yeah.
And their life gets switched around.
Yeah.
So also that's what I also sometimes tell the young kids, that if you have a passion or natural inclination towards something, go for it, master it. At some point, that will benefit you. Maybe not in the way that you intended or visioned, but someday, somehow, it will come around.
Yeah.
And try to put positive energy out there in the world.
Yeah.
Especially if you're privileged enough to have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
You know, put out positivity out there, and it will somehow get back to you. That sounded good, right?
I think this whole conversation has sounded good.
Yeah, it was good.
It's
Nice
Is there any final words? The thing that keeps coming back to me is the both and. That's something that I really emphasize, because we live in a world that seems to think that everything is black and white, and the both and. So I love how, you know, you're this creative music artist on stage, blah blah blah, doing all these things, and you're also a volunteer working for NGOs, supporting kids.
Yeah.
And so you're both of those things. You're not either or. You're not. So I really love that that's being emphasized in this sacred conversation with you.
And thank you for this really nice conversation.
Thank you.
I knew what to expect a little bit, but this again has gone beyond what I expected. Coming to Nashville all the way.
Coming to Nashville. Do you have any final words? Anything you want to share? Anything? I just want to say that in the descriptions, there's going to be a link to my website where you can find all of the links. I'm going to link to also the singing coach and all of those things that you mentioned. I'm going to be linking to all of it, so people can go find. And even if they want, I suppose you can still donate to the school.
Yeah, you can.
All these projects. So I'll be linking to everything that I can get my hands on. So just let people know that. But do you have any final words before we hit it?
I think we
covered it.
Yeah, we covered everything. Just once again, thank you very much for having me. It was a blessing and an honor, and we're twins, and
We're
this,
twins.
this was meant to be on a cosmic level. So
It was.
I hope people can feel the energy out there.
Great. Thank you, Waqas.
Thank you.
That is what I had for you in today's episode of Mastery with Maria Serafina. I hope it served you well. For all the deeds and details, click the link in the description and help me spread the love of this transmission by sharing it with a friend or on social media, or leave me a comment or review. Have a wonderful day. God bless.